Okay guys, so for today's video, I thought I'd do something different and take you through a full workout. I find that oftentimes, since I've been doing more of these surf strengthening videos, I do get some questions around what a workout should look like. So this is going to fit in everything that I like to do in terms of making sure we have the strength, the mobility, the flexibility, the stability. How many of those are there? So that we can make sure that we're improving our bodies and our general strength and fitness for surfing. I'll kind of run through as we go today. I'm going to keep it pretty non-edited, and I'll walk you through everything step by step. I'll leave the timestamps to the individual exercises down below as well, but I'll run through everything in a nice flow, giving you the technique and making sure that you're feeling the right areas and exactly what you need to be doing. So we're going to start off, as you can see, with a dynamic warm-up. That's going to include our 90-90s, our spinal flow, and then our half burpees. We're then going to move through to our strength element where we're going to do our pop-up sliders, and we're going to superset that with our partial paddles. Supersetting, a really good way to save time, improve our aerobic capacity as well, get some heart rate up. Then we're going to superset our tabs or our core exercise with our narrow push-ups, and lastly our Cossack squats that we're going to alternate there. And then we're going to do a warm down and a bit of mobility work. So that's going to include our figure four, our hip flexor stretch, our child's pose, some good things to help loosen us up after the session. So let's get straight into it. So what we're going to start off with today is our warm-up and our 90-90s. Okay, so if you've got a stopwatch or a timer, it's good to get these going, and we're going to try and do this for 30 seconds at a time. I'll quickly show you exactly how we're going to be doing this. So first off, what we want to do is we want to put ourselves into a 90-90 position. And this is going to look like our shin is going to be at about 90 degrees to our thigh or our femur. And then our back leg, the femur is going to be at 90 degrees in line with the shin. And then we're going to try and get our shin here nice and at a right angle with that as well. And so what we're going to do starting off is bring our hands behind our back. And we need to make sure that we're keeping our heels glued to the ground as we try and rotate around. And we're going to try and match that position as we come around, okay? So let's start our timer and I'll walk you through it. So if you want to start with, lean back on your hands, and this makes it really nice and easy to make sure that we're getting enough rotation through the hips. And as you improve, you'll see that we can start to do it without holding on. And this is a really good way to make sure we're getting the ball and socket of the hip joint moving really nicely. You can probably see I'm wriggling forwards here as well. That's a little hard to stop. And we're really trying to get our knees flat to the ground. Now, if we can't do that, then what we're going to aim to do is just get as far as you can and really feel where those limitations are with this one. So you might notice as you go one way, the back leg might get stuck, or you can't get that front leg through to the ground, or you're unable to do it with your hands up, so you want to bring your hands down. All of that is fine. We're just going to try and progress with that one, okay? So 30 seconds of that, and then we're going to go through to our spinal flow. So with the spinal flow exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to start off in our child's pose position, okay? And so what I'd like you to feel here is I want you to try and drop your heels down to the bottom as much as you can. We don't want to bend down and have too much of a gap between our heels and our bottom. And this will really help to get a nice hip flexion angle and a really nice spinal flexion angle as well, something that we need as surfers a lot to tuck that body underneath us, especially with our pop-up. And then we feel a nice stretch through the lats. Hold this for 5 seconds or so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to try and crawl ourselves forwards into a nice cobra. With this, we want to try and feel the hips in contact with the ground. And then we'll try and make sure that we extend up as much as we can. If that's too hard, we can come to an elbow prop. But otherwise, we're going to try and improve this one, extending further up and getting more extension. And we're going to roll through that about five times. So again, bottom to the heels, feeling the stretch through the lats, reaching forwards, and then cruising through to our nice cobra position, feeling that extension through the spine. And you might feel with each repetition, you're able to get a little bit further. A little bit further of a stretch through the lats here, a little bit further down with the bottom coming to the heels. And then especially with our extension, it can take a little bit of time for this to loosen up, but trying to come up as tall as you can with that chest, making sure that we don't just lift the hips up like that. And now the last one that we're going to go for here is going to be a nice dynamic movement to get the body working and ready to go. And these are our half burpees, or they're kind of like a partial pop-up motion. And this is going to get everything moving in the way that we need to for the pop-up in a bit of an easier way. So thinking about hip flexors, low back, hips. So what we want to do here is let's start off in our pre-pop-up position, hands underneath the ribs, looking forwards, and most importantly, we're going to keep our toes tucked. And then from here, what we're going to do is we're going to try and push off the toes to land the feet underneath the chest. And we're going to try about 8 of these. So we don't need to come up any further into a standing position like we would for a burpee. But this is just going to get our heart rate up a little bit, get the low back moving nice and comfortably, so that's ready for our strength work. And it just helps to get the body nice and warmed up for us here as well. And I forget my counting. I think that's about 8. So now that we've done a bit of a warm up, let's get into the strength work. So the first that we're going to superset, which means we do 1 set of 1 straight into the next exercise, and we're going to do that twice, is going to be our pop-up sliders and partial paddles. I need some slippery floor here, so let's go somewhere else. Okay, so we've repositioned and we're gonna go for our supersetting of our pop-up sliders and our partial paddles. We're gonna go for 2 sets. You can do more, but for the purpose of this video, we're gonna do 2 sets of 30 seconds for each exercise. So for our pop-up sliders, what we need is we need a towel, we need some floorboards or something that's gonna be a little bit slipperier as well. And we're gonna position ourselves in a position where our toes are gonna be tucked into the towel, and we're gonna lie down on the floor just like this. Now, just to get into this movement, we're gonna have, like a good pop-up, our hands underneath our ribs, and the whole purpose of this is to be fast. So we wanna try and drive the knees into the chest as we're dragging our toes, or the towel, along the floor like this. The intent here is not to go slowly through. We want to be nice and fast and move with intent. Then for our partial paddles, this is going to be an exercise where we take a lie down on a mat, or you can do it on the floorboards if you like, and we're going to come into 2 positions. A Y position with our arms in front, and then we're going to come into the same position back here. Now what we want to do though is we want to keep the arms locked out, and we're going to go up and around, and we want to do 1 tap every second. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to really try and keep a nice arch through the chest and make sure that we're feeling it in the back of the shoulder blades. So let's get into this now. We're going to get into our pop-up sliders, get in position, set up the 30 seconds, ready, set, and go. Make sure the knees are coming through really fast. We want to train that power with this one. Get a great workout through the arms too. 10 more seconds. Can breathe out on the pull through. 1 more. Nice. Straight into our partial paddles. 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. It's worth highlighting, the partial paddles build endurance in the muscles that often lead to form failing in our paddling. If we keep this strong, then paddle performance will improve. For the exercise, we should feel this in the back of the shoulders, and we need to be careful to keep the chest up, like when we're paddling. We can also keep the body stable by pressing the toes into the floor like I am here, and this will also help to strengthen the low back extensors, and it's great for our core stability, which is crucial for our paddle efficiency and endurance. All right, 10 seconds between rests. Let's get back into our pop-up sliders. 2 and 1. For this one, keep thinking knees to chest, and we're training the hip flexor power here, which is so important, and speed is key. You will find as you continue, and as I'm here, that this one gets harder and harder, both in the arms and in the front of the hips. This is relevant for our strength training for surfing because of the endurance deficits I do see in a lot of surfers. The classic example here having been the pop-up paddling or our surfing in general, feeling good at the start of the session, but it gets worse as we fatigue later in the session, and that's what we're aiming to get on top of here. Then going for our last set of partial paddles. Let's do it. 2 and 1. As you fatigue with this one, like I am here, it's important to try and stay fast, and again, keep the chest up. When we drop our form, we'll be forcing our neck into extension, overusing our upper traps and neck muscles, and this is exactly what leads to our surfers' neck issues in surfers, a common gradual onset condition for people who have some incorrect patterns or decreased tolerance with paddling. So the lower back, keeping yourself in position. 3, 2, 1, and stop. Alrighty, hopefully we've got the heart rate up a little bit. So I positioned those more power-based and endurance-based exercises at the start because we don't want to be going into those ones really fatigued because they're quite hard. All right, we are back in action for our next superset, okay? So this is going to be our core exercises, working through the deep core. I'll show you how to do those in a tick, and then our narrow push-ups. So you guys have probably not had as much of a rest as I am, so I'm not being very nice, but let's get into it. So to show you quickly how we're going to do the core exercise, the whole point of this is to get this part of the core to shake whilst it's trying to stabilize as we're moving our arms and legs. So to get yourself in the perfect position to start with, come into this crook lying position here, and we're going to try and press the lower back firm into the floor. Now I like to get people doing this one with their hands behind their back, and I want to get you feeling the pressure of your lower back being pushed, pushing your hands into the floor and maintaining that as we come into this semi-tabletop position. So what you'll find is you'll probably want to ease the tension off the hands. We've got to keep that tension. Now I'm going to do this one just with the legs to begin with, but in the future we can use our arms as part of this as well. So pressure into the hands. We're going to keep that pressure, feel a bit of the shake in the core, and then we're going to try and slowly extend our leg out for 3 seconds, 3 seconds back. Reapply the pressure to the hands if you've lost it, and then we're going to go the other side. So that's how we're going to be doing this one here. So this is going to be a push-up in the position that I want you to essentially pop up in. So not a chest-based push-up where our hands are a bit wider. We want to come in next to our chest, nice and narrow, and we can do this from the feet, or we can do this from the knees as well, depending on your what you're most comfortable with. So let's start out with this one. We're going to do 6 leg extensions either side, and then we're going to come into a set of 12 push-ups and do that twice. Let's go. So hands behind the back, firm pressure, and let's start. So 3 seconds down, 2, 3, good, and coming up, 2, 3. Reapply the pressure, feel the shake in the core, push, push, push into the lower back, into the hands, good, and coming up. Nice slow cadence. Hopefully you feel a bit of shake in the core, but your mind should be on pressing hard into the hands with your lower back, and that's what's going to be getting the core nice and active. If we do let the spine come off the hands, you can see it's really a lot easier, but we don't want that for ourselves. Let's go 2 more either side. Good, 1, nice and slow, pressure into the back. Good, pressure into the back. Last 2. Again, terrible counter, so I might have gotten these numbers wrong. Great, and hopefully you can feel a nice burn through the core now. Let's go straight into our narrow push-ups and a set of 12. Okay, let's do this together. So, arms might already be tired from the previous exercise. Let's work through a little bit more strength with our triceps here, which is what we're really targeting. Good. 1. Keep a steady pace to these. Keep the back nice and flat. We don't want to see too much of this. We don't want to see too much of this. We want to keep everything nice and straight. 11, 12, hopefully. Let's come back into our core exercises. So hands behind the back, nice and firm. Now I'll show you how we do this with the hands if you would like. We can cheat a little bit because we can't feel our hands into the back, so we have to make sure we keep that pressure. And we go alternating hands and legs. So left leg, right arm, pressure in the lower back, and then right leg, left arm, pressure in the lower back. Here we go, let's keep going like that. 2, 2, 3, keep that pressure. It's a fantastic exercise for core stability. And when we do our pop-ups, that's where we need our core stability. We want the arms to be explosive. We want the hip flexors to be explosive. We want the core to be a stable structure that the arms and the legs can move around. Good, I'm gonna go for one more either side. There's again, us physios, we can't count. All right, and last set of our push-ups. Let's get into it. Same position, steady pace, not too fast, controlling the up and down phase. Here we go. 1. Keep those elbows tucked in. Going for 12, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2 more, 11, 12. Cool. All right, so that's our second superset finished. Now, we're gonna go into our Cossack squats. This is an incredible exercise for our hip stability and reproducing the kind of weight shift change from leg to leg that we need for our turns on a surfboard. Okay, so the last of the strengthening exercises that we're going to be going through is called the Cossack or the Cossack squat, however you want to say it. And essentially this is going to be really, really important for our single leg loading. So there's a few important things that we want to think about to be strong surfers. One of the things that I do see a lot of surfers as they age with their surfing having some difficulty with is firstly on the pop-up, as we pop up, having the strength to be able to push off one leg upwards more than another. And then this also comes into play when we're going to be turning and we're going to be translating that weight forwards and backwards to be relying on one leg. Now, for a lot of you, this might not be an issue in terms of having difficulty translating weight with the turn, but we can produce more force if we're more stable and if we're stronger through our hips, through our legs, so glute med, quads, hamstrings, calves, everything there. So single leg work, really, really important. This is a great way to do it. So what we're going to be doing here is we want to get into a really, really wide stance. Now, I'll show you what's more of a lateral lunge to begin with, and this is a great entry. And then we can go through the proper Cossack squat, which gets quite low. So what we're going to do though is nice and wide, a little bit of a rock star stance. And then what I'm going to have you do to start with is I'd like you just to try and translate your weight over to one leg. We can see with this heel as well, we're going to be pressing the heel into the ground, elevating that toe and keeping this whole leg nice and straight. So not like this, we're going to be allowing, think about our hips shifting over one leg as we lengthen out through that groin here, and then we're going to come back up. And then we're going to alternate this. So we can go in this direction, and so we should be loading one leg and stretching out the other is probably a nice way to think about it. The stretch isn't the function of this exercise. So we can also do this in a position where we get much lower, okay? And so this is where we try and keep our chest nice and tall as much as we can. We'll have some bend forwards, but we get really low over, okay? And you can see what we're doing here is, again, that toe will lift up. We get a nice stretch through that groin and adductor, and then we come back up, and we switch that over side to side. Now in the future, you can also load this with some weight if you hold it as a kind of like a goblet squat position. But let's get straight into it. I've actually changed my mind here. We're not going to do alternating. We'll do one side of 10 and then the other side of 10. And we're kind of going to superset those sides. So again, go for the depth that you feel like you can manage. Maybe start off the first set shallow. If you feel like you want to progress it from there, we can. Probably wider than you think for the stance, and let's get into it. So 10 on each side. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. So keep that chest nice and tall. You can think about trying to look forwards with this exercise. Get that toe off the ground, something I need to remind myself of. 8. Feel that stretch through the groin. And let's swap. 1, 2. Good. So we want to be feeling this through the glutes. So the back of the leg, the hamstrings on the loaded side, and you'll definitely feel this through the quad as well. 10, I think that's 10. Let's go for the next side. So the second set, of course, is going to be a little bit harder. Such a good one to load up through the hips and get that single leg strength. And something you might also find, just swapping over, is that you're stronger one side than the other. And if that's the case, then this is a good thing to try and take note of and see if over time you can load this up to try and decrease the strength discrepancies side to side. I think there's a couple more there. And they are our Cossack squats. So something that's really good. So right now I can feel it all through my hips, through the quads. And it is such a good exercise as well because, you know, double leg exercise is really, really important. We want to do things like our normal squat patterns, but often you'll see if people are stronger one side versus the other. So I'll have a little shift over to one side. And so this is great to be able to correct some of that. Okay, so we are going to now finish up with our mobility exercises. So one that we can start with is called our figure 4. And we can do this in a seated position on the ground. We can also do it on a seat. I'll start on the ground here. But we can bend up our knee first of all, and then we want to try and bring our ankle or our foot onto that knee. And so we can kind of think about this as like a 4 shape, which is why we call it the figure 4. Spine up nice and tall. And all we're gonna do, I like to just get my elbow here, and we're just gonna try and apply the pressure down the side of the hip here and see how far we can get that down. Okay, so we'll hold this for about 30 seconds. You can do it with me here. But where we really want to feel this is right down the side or the outside of the glute. So this will be stretching through a bunch of the hip rotators, which is really, really good. It's often the place where we do get fairly tight. That's where we're going to be stretching through today with a few of these exercises. We'll go through the hip flexors and everything as well. And we want to see if we can get a little bit more depth there. Now, if you want to progress this one, we can actually do it in lying down as well. We actually bring ourselves into this position. You can try and pull this knee back, which will actually increase that hip flexion angle. And then we can also try and press in on that elbow into that knee to push that out further. We're gonna externally rotate the hip in that position too. And so this is a really good way to try and stretch out that hip a little bit further. Great. And we can try that the other side in any way that you want to do it. Might start off with a little bit of a lighter stretch. And then as you ease through the 30 seconds, we can try and go a little bit further with that. Grabbing behind the back here, allowing that stretch. I'm so much tighter on this left side. Really good. So just allow yourself to breathe through that as well. It's not the most fun when you feel that tight stretch. Don't go into a maximal stretch. I like to go, you know, into a place where you can find some discomfort, but you're still able to tolerate it. And then, like I can feel here, it does ease up. And that's when we can push a little bit further. We don't need to go all the way from the very start. That's how we learn to not love these exercises and not do them very consistently. Okay, so say that's another 30 seconds there. Now next we can go into our hip flexor stretch. This is one that I did want to cover because it's so useful, especially, you know, day-to-day lives at the moment when we're in a seated position quite a lot. This hip flexor here, so the iliopsoas, rectus femoris, there's a couple different hip flexors there. That's what we're going to be trying to stretch out. The leg that is being stretched is going to be the back leg. Now, what I see with this one is people look like they get a bunch of a stretch and they actually just lean forwards like this. Does not do very much, unfortunately. So what we actually want to do is we want to stay essentially hip over the knee. And what we do is we actually push the hips forwards, okay? So a little bit of a movement forwards of the hips. And then for the surfers, I like to say we can do a bit of a soul arch backwards. And that's what's going to actually produce this stretch through the front of the hip. So we should get this at the very front, a little bit down the quad here as well. And we want to hold and sustain that. And so a little bit of an arch back if you want. If that's too much, you can just stay purely upright. But think about squeezing the glutes and driving that forwards. 30 seconds on one side, and then we can try that 30 seconds on the other as well. Again, pushing the hips forwards, a little bit of a soul arch back here. Pretend to be your favorite surfer from the 70s. And try to really get that nice stretch. Again, not maximally at the start. Go about, 60%, and then see if you can find a little bit of an ease in that tension. Then you can drive in a little bit further, and we can do a couple rounds of that as well. And then just to finish off with, because it's a really nice one, now that we've done a bit of work, it's just going to be our child's pose. There's a couple of variations that you can do here with me. So we firstly just want to try and get our bottom to our heels, as we spoke about at the start of the session today. Lengthen out through the lats. Try to drop down as far as you can, not at the cost of the heels coming off the bottom, and trying to let that chest sink into the knees, feeling the stretch through the lats. We can also go side to side here to get a nice stretch through the lats. So if you think about bringing your left arm to the side, and then we're going to try and meet that left hand with the right, and so you're going to feel a really great stretch through the lats there. So underneath the arm, you can think about on the right side. Breathe into that for a few seconds. And then we can come around and we can do the other side as well. We're trying to find that right hand with the left, feeling that stretch through the left lats. And allowing yourself to breathe into that position. Again, don't go 100% straight off the bat. What I prefer to do is go a little way, find an easing in the tension, go a little bit further. That's going to be how you're going to get a lot out of this sort of stretch. And then you might come back to neutral and just spend a little bit longer down here. Okay, but a really nice stretch. You'll likely feel this through the lats, through the back of the hips, maybe through the lower back as well, depending on how tight we are there. It's a great way to finish off. So I hope that's been helpful. Again, if you're able to kind of consistently follow through this, and again, if you're able to keep some consistency with this, I'll likely do a few more of these on the channel, depending on how you like them. But I think they can add some really, really good little bit of programming for your surfing, and you will start to feel stronger in the water if you're able to keep some consistency with this. With our programming, make sure you don't go to a 10 out of 10 straight off the bat. Make sure that you go within your means to start with, and then learn how you respond, learn how you tolerate things, and you can progress it up steadily from there. It's about consistency over time and progressively loading it a little bit more over time as well. Not going to a 10 out of 10 straight away and finding your limits too early. We want to make sure you're nice and safe, okay? So I hope you found that really, really helpful. Again, if you did want any work one-on-one with myself through Pop-Up Rehab or any of the other programs and sessions that I run, feel free to check that out down in the description below. I'm going to place a video here which I think will be really helpful if you haven't watched it already, on how to make sure you're strengthening for the pop-up. But other than that, hope you're all getting waves, and we'll catch you on the next one.